Brian Baldinger will call the game. Eagles-Cardinals for Compass Media, the NFL Network, also college football on Fox at Baldy NFL, hashtag Baldy Breakdowns. And, Brian, we see the Eagles last week for the second week in a row decided to run the football 41 times. That's 80 in 2 weeks. And is this a recipe that they should continue the rest of the season? Is this a team that is all of a sudden, very good running team at running the football?
Well, I mean, they've had success 2 weeks in a row, and so it helps when you get, a lot of success on first down like they've had. Actually, even going all the way back to Kansas City, they're running for about 5 yards a clip on first down. So it's a lot easier to call a run, the next time around. It's also good when you've got the lead and, you're keeping the other team down. I mean, all those things factor into if you're going to run the ball, what the score is, if you've got the lead, if you're having success. And so, 2 weeks in a row against an anemic Giant offense, and against a bad run defense of San Diego, they had a lot of success. But, this Arizona Cardinal team, they have a whole different group of athletes on that side of the ball that they'd have to run against this week. And this will be, it'll be a great test to see if they can control the game on the ground the way they have the last 2 weeks.
And you watch that game against the Chargers in some of your Baldy breakdowns. LeGarrette Blount, balance, but he was also getting some help from guys like Zach Ertz in the run game as well. Is Blount the guy that the Eagles should lean on in the run game?
I think that, they're getting contributions from a lot of people right now, so that's a good thing. But, I think LeGarrette Blount is a first-line, run player. I mean, I think you got to feed him. I think you got to get him into the 15-carry game if you can. There's places for Wendell Smallwood. There's places for Corey Clement when you get up to that 40 number. You want to kind of balance it out a little bit, and Carson's going to get scrambles. So you're going to get 4 different guys running the ball each week. I'd like to see LeGarrette kind of see if he can get going early, because you saw the energy that he plays with. You see how difficult he can be to bring down in the open field. You see a way broken, just breakaway speed when he gets that locomotive kind of going down the field. So I think he's got to be the guy that sort of sets the table for this offense right now.
Brian Baldinger, he'll call the game. Eagles, Cardinals, Compass Media. And don't forget, check him out on the NFL Network in his coverage of college football on Fox and at Baldy NFL with Baldy breakdowns. And how about Carson Wentz and the job he's done? Specifically, the numbers aren't great. They don't jump off the screen, but those third down conversions, he has been excellent in that area of the game.
Well, they're second in the league right now, Pete, in third down conversions, which means they're sustaining offense. They're staying on the field. He's a difficult guy to bring down to the ground. You can't just equate numbers with success. I mean, he's way more than that. I mean, he's the leader of the whole team. He feels like every time he steps on the field, the Eagles have a chance right now. I mean, he's just that type of player. And so the numbers are all going to improve. They'll continue to go up. The completion percentage, touchdowns, that will all go up as he plays more. He's got 20 starts under his belt. But he's a dynamic player. He's a great runner. And he does things that some guys just never learn. His ability to keep his eyes down the field, to rescue plays, to get out of harm's way, to get out of bad plays. I mean, he's on a fast track here to, early stardom, and we're seeing signs of it right now.
Baldy, we get Doug Peterson each week throwing out RPO. Can you explain this RPO and what it means to the Eagles' success on offense this season? Because we keep hearing this RPO each week, but I'm not sure everybody knows what it means.
Well, it might be difficult to explain on the radio. I mean, I could show it on a Baldy breakdowns, but run pass option, and it's really on Carson. And they had probably 4 or 5 of them against San Diego, and all it is, if you've got LeGarrette Blount or Wendell Smallwood to the right of you, and Kelsey snaps the ball to Carson, and he puts the ball in the belly of the back, he's reading those linebackers. Those linebackers step up to stop LeGarrette Blount or Wendell Smallwood. It creates this huge space in the middle of the field for Zach Ertz or somebody to come across the middle. And they got a number of those the other day where, Carson's got to make a split-second decision, but he made the right decisions on to pull the ball out and then to deliver the ball quickly to, an open area in the middle of the field. And they got a lot of easy completions off that RPO on Sunday. And, in college football, it's the rage in college football. But, everything that you see in college on Saturdays has crept into the NFL. And so it's a big part of teams' offenses. But the Eagles, it was pretty easy to see when they ran them the other day, and the decisions that Carson made, which I think unilaterally was the right decision in almost every single case.
Well, let me ask you more about Carson then, because then another one of your Baldy breakdowns, which I believe are great, by the way. I know Mike said that too, but they're fantastic. You said that Wentz always keeps his eyes down the field. So do you see them having more success down the field as the season goes on?
Well, I think, look, if you look at a Hall of Famer like Troy Aikman, he was 1-15 his rookie year, and he gradually got better and better as the team got better around him, and his deep ball didn't come in the first year or even the second year. But by the third year, he had a very good and accurate deep ball. It's just something that, look, he wasn't – it's difficult to practice deep balls, in practice where you're getting real speed, game speed from Alshon or Torrey. It's just a difficult thing to practice. You don't get a lot of shots in practice. And then, your adrenaline is going. And so they haven't taken that many deep shots, to be honest with you. But, yeah, they haven't connected. But it's going to come. It's going to come. Carson's got a good touch on the ball. You can already see him, throwing at different speeds and when to throw the laser and when to kind of drop the ball in the bucket. He's already, on a fast track to being pretty good at what kind of ball to throw in what situation. But the deep ball is going to come for him. He's got touch on the ball. They don't call a lot of them right now. It's not a high percentage throw. But against the Giants, he got 2 of them that turned into defensive pass interference calls. And so they only took 3 of them out of the game. And, look, they weren't completed, but they got the penalty, and they got, some easy first downs and big chunk yardage out of it, almost 80 yards of, pass interference penalties. So it's been effective, game by game. It's been effective.
Baldy, the Eagles' record with Lane Johnson versus without Lane Johnson, it's significantly different. Can you explain what Lane Johnson brings to the table as a former offensive lineman yourself, and why maybe he completes the O-line and the offense?
Well, it's more than that. But, look, the record is what it is right now with him as the starter. First of all, he's as good, if not a better athlete, than almost every defensive end he plays against. He plays against a lot of good ones. You saw Joey Bosa last week. He sees Ryan Kerrigan. Those are elite athletes that most right tackles struggle with. But Lane is almost as fast, if not faster, than both those guys. He's got incredible balance. You hardly ever see him on the ground. I wouldn't say that he played great the first 2 weeks, but he's played much better the last 2 games. And so when he's playing at his best, he's an elite athlete at right tackle. And there's only a couple of them in the league. And that's where the foundation to what he does. Now, I think his run blocking can still get better, but, Joey Bosa, he went both sides. He went against Peters. He went against Lane Johnson. He was eliminated from that game. He had no impact in that game whatsoever. But when the Eagles tackles, Peters and Johnson, are on top of their game, it's the number 1 tandem of tackles in the league today.
Spending some time with Brian Baldinger. He'll call the game on Sunday. So how about the role that Zach Ertz has in this offense? He's both as a pass catcher and then now, because Eagles fans definitely remember the Cincinnati game last year where he had like a little a little whiff, but now his blocking seems to be improving, and he had that key block on the play that sprung LeGarrette Blount.
Well, I said it, in my breakdowns this week. It's the best all-around game that Zach Ertz has played as an Eagle. And he may dispute that, but, when I factor in blocking, and if he wants to be an every down tight end, he had to get better at that component. And last week, not just on the cut block on LeGarrette Blount's, 68-yard run, but there were some other blocks in the game. He had a chip block where he knocked the defensive end to the ground. He had another block at the point of attack where he did a good job of sustaining his block and staying on his feet and driving him off the line of scrimmage. They didn't run for 200 yards without good blocking from their tight ends last week, both Selleck and Zach. And so I would say that that's the best all-around game. Zach's always going to be a good receiver. He runs good routes. But I want to see him become a better, effective blocker. And I saw that last week, and, that was encouraging. I pointed it out. I added him last week. And now we got to see if he can sustain that and keep that going, week to week right now.
Brian Baldinger, Compass Media. He'll call the game this Sunday, Eagles and Cardinals nationally, and at Baldy NFL. Baldy, obviously, on the offensive side of the ball, Torrey Smith He's been struggling catching the ball. Alshon, he hasn't been numerically he hasn't jumped off the page. Aguilar, do you think the wide receivers will be more involved in this offense as the season continues?
Yeah, it's going to take, at the end of the year, the numbers will all be there. I mean, look, they've run the ball 80 times the last 2 weeks. There's been a run-based. And so you can't have it all. You can't have, receivers, catching the type of crazy numbers that Antonio Brown does, or, if you look at DeAndre Hopkins and what he's doing, he caught 10 passes last week. They're not having that kind of volume right now. They lead the league in time of possession right now. So, they're second in the league in third down conversions. They're staying on the field, but they're chewing up clock, and they're keeping their defense fresh. And so, when you play that style of offense, and that was what was necessary to beat the Giants and to beat the Chargers, then you're not going to have as many attempts. And when you've got, 5 guys that you're spreading the ball between the backs and the tight end and then the other receivers, you're spreading around, you're just not going to get a lot of targets. But, if they're down 14-0 on Sunday to Arizona, they're going to have to throw it to catch up. Those guys are going to get a lot more targets. It's going to be games where Doug's going to come out throwing it because that's the best way to win a game. And in those games, those guys will get better numbers and more opportunities. But right now, I don't think anybody who's over there at 3-1 at the top of the NFC East is complaining about, how many targets or how many catches they have.
Baldy, just to go back to Zach Ertz for a minute, he was in the locker room today and said to a reporter, "We're a complete offense now. We are a complete offense now," was his quote. Do you agree with him on that standpoint? Are they a complete offense?
I think anytime that Carson steps on the field, they have a chance to win. I mean, he's just that good. And so, look, the offensive line is very solid. What they're doing at left guard with Wisniewski and Chance is better than what they did with Isaac Seumalo for 2 weeks. And so they're better up front. If the tight ends can continue to block the way they did last week, and you get the contributions from the 3 backs that they got, then yes, for that week, they're a complete offense. But, if they sputter this week against a very good Arizona Cardinal defense, a very good run defense, people may have second thoughts about that. So it's week to week in this business. I don't want to say that they're a complete offense right now because they haven't had to be a complete offense to win some of these games. There's going to be days when they're going to need, a dynamic 2-minute drill to go win a football game. And can they do that? And when you can do those things to win games, then you can announce yourself as a complete offense.
Brian Baldinger, Compass Media this weekend, NFL Network. Let's go to Baldy's breakdown on the defensive side of the ball. And you break down that play, Baldy, Derek Barnett, and he created what was really a turning point of that game to start it off. He gets the strip sack from Long, and then he hustles it down, ends up getting the ball, and they score on that first possession there. But his numbers, another guy whose numbers don't jump off the page, but you're noticing this guy's motor is nonstop. He's going to start getting numbers pretty soon.
Well, I mean, first of all, he's getting double-teamed a lot. Even on the play where Chris Long strips it and he recovers it, I mean, they're doubling him on that play. And he takes the left tackle, good left tackle, and he backs him right up into the lap of Phillip Rivers, which forced him to move. And the last thing Phillip Rivers wants to do is get off of that postage stamp 5 yards behind the ball, behind the center. He wants to stay there and work from the pocket. And once he starts moving, he's not quite as effective. And that's when Chris Long got the ball out, and then Derek Barnett, came back and he scooped it up one-handed. I mean, like a shortstop picking up a ground ball. That's he's got great ability. The sacks at the end of the year, he'll get sacks. He'll get his numbers. But right now, when Chris Long gets that sack, he should be getting the assist because Chris Long's not getting that sack fumble without Derek Barnett. So it all goes together. He's going to get some plays because Brandon Graham is forcing, the quarterback to step out of the pocket, or Fletcher Cox is flushing somebody, or Bo Allen has beaten his man. So at the end of the day, it all works together. And the good thing about Derek Barnett, he's not the least bit selfish. He's completely a team player, and he's not really looking at his numbers. And that's the good thing about Derek Barnett.
Hey, Baldy, another, the Eagles secondary now, I don't know if it's starting to leak oil a little bit, and all the injuries catching up to them. You can maybe comment on that, too, because maybe no Fletcher Cox, the Darby, maybe that catches up. But Patrick Robinson's doing his part.
No doubt. I mean, I think, and I said that this week, that, in the Eagles' 3-1 start and first place and all that kind of stuff that's going on, he's an unsung hero. He's been outstanding. He really has. And I don't think I know he's played in the slot before, but not very often. He's never been considered. He's always been an outside corner. But he's exclusively right now inside the slot. And he's really been good. He was good last week. He's been good in every game in that role. And they need him to be good in that role because you're going to see a lot of dynamic slot receivers in this league. Jamison Crowder, you're going to see that Cole Beasley in Dallas. You're going to see a lot of really good slot receivers, and he's got to match up with those guys. And so far, he's been, I would say, he's been the biggest surprise on defense because I don't think anybody really knew when he's on his fourth team in 4 years that he was going to be a contributor, much less a great contributor. And what it's done is it's eliminated the need for Malcolm Jenkins to leave the safety position and go fix that position like they had to do all of last year. And it really nullified, I think, some of the great characteristics and traits that Malcolm Jenkins has at safety.
Spending some time with Brian Baldinger, the great former Eagle and offensive lineman, a guy that breaks down the NFL in a way that nobody else can. So, Baldy, what you've seen from the Eagles, all your Baldy's breakdowns that you've done, the film study on Arizona, what's the biggest matchup this week in that Eagles-Cards game that you'll be watching?
Well, I mean, the Eagles, whether Fletcher Cox plays or not plays, the Arizona offensive line has not been good this year. And Carson Palmer is as limited as Phillip Rivers was last week. And under pressure, Carson Palmer even going back a few years when Chip Kelly beat him in 2013 here at the Link. I mean, they were able to get him to cough up the ball twice in interceptions. And they put the right amount of pressure on because Bruce Arians wants to attack you, and it takes time for some of these routes to get down the field to John Brown, Jerron Brown, and some of the guys they have on the outside. And that's really, to me, where this game is going to get won and lost. They don't have a great rushing attack. They can't really cobble that together. They lost a dynamic player in David Johnson. So they're going to try and make up for it with big explosive plays, and which is fine. That's what Bruce Arians likes to do. But a great pass rush up front, a great pass rush without really having a blitz, just rushing four, to me is the key matchup in this whole game.
And, Baldy, is that really the way the league is going? Like, getting four guys that can rush the passer. If you don't have the blitz and you can get those four, it seems that the league is all these teams underneath, quick stuff underneath, running backs catch the ball, everything's underneath. So teams are trying to get more guys in coverage, and if you can get to the quarterback with four, it seems that that's the key in this league right now.
Well, the quicker you can get the ball out of the quarterback's hands, the better your defense is going to be. You allow quarterbacks in this league, you've got 16 quarterbacks with a quarterback rating of 90 or above right now. You give most quarterbacks in this league time right now, it's too hard. It's too hard to slow the passing game down. You've got to get the ball out of their hands quicker. You got to make them feel pressure. You got to make them just feel like there's a cobra in the room and he's ready to strike. And when you can affect them like that, even if you don't hit them or sack them, you can limit the number of big plays in the passing game. And look, it's nothing new. You go back to the Fearsome Foursome or the Purple People Eaters or Doomsday or the Steel Curtain. We've always been a league where if you've got four really good pass rushers, usually success follows. And in those four examples I just gave you, a lot of success followed those teams.
Check out Baldy Breakdowns at Baldy NFL on Twitter. Do yourself a favor. Make sure you use that hashtag Baldy Breakdowns. They're great. Breaking down each key plays from all the games, not just the Eagles game. Compass Media nationally has the game Eagles and Cardinals. Baldy on the NFL Network and Fox's coverage of college football. If it's football and you want to hear, Baldy's got the insight, and it is excellent stuff, Baldy. We always appreciate it.
My pleasure, guys. Anytime now. Enjoy the game Sunday.